You listen to the Gary Owen Podcast. Hashtag Get Some.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen with the Get Some Podcast. As always, you can listen to this on iTunes. Just search Gary Owen hashtag Get Some, or go to YouTube, youtube.com. I don't know if it's backslash or forward slash. God dang it. GaryOwenCom. Just go to YouTube. You put GaryOwenCom. My YouTube pages show up, and then you can see all the podcasts, all the old ones. I'm going to start off with my schedule. First of all, thanks everybody in Schaumburg, which is right outside of Chicago, for coming to see me last week at the Improv. Only thing about Chicago people is when I tell people I'm in Chicago at the Improv, which it's called the Chicago Improv, they'd be like, that ain't Chicago, that's Schaumburg. But it's literally 20 miles from Chicago. But people live in Chicago, they act like it's 2,000 miles away. But one lady did say, you got to pay tolls. There's toll roads. Anybody got time for that? I guess I never thought of that. And now it's 20 minutes from downtown Chicago. So if you live on the other side of Chicago, it could be a 45-minute drive. I get that. But it's called the Chicago Improv. Like, that's the website. But we sold out all the shows, added a show. So thanks, everybody, for coming out. And I'm so excited about my new hour and where it's going because, my last special came out a few weeks ago on Showtime, and it's currently on Showtime On Demand or the Showtime app called hashtag Doing What I Do. But, as soon as I do a special, as soon as I'm done recording it, I immediately go into time for the next hour mode. And so the first couple weeks after the special, I make sure I try a couple new things. And then, after about a month hitting the clubs, then I really start cutting all the jokes from the special, because when it airs, I want to be able to go on the road and have an all new hour. Now, what I did do in Phoenix last 2 weeks ago that I haven't done, when I did Phoenix, my special just came out the week before. So I was on stage, I did 45 minutes, and about halfway through, I just did a joke from my special, and people laugh like they never heard it. And it's just, when your special comes out, you think everybody has seen it, but you realize a lot of people haven't. So it's like a weird dynamic. Like, you want to keep the fans coming back, and my biggest fear is to be that comic where people are like, man, he does the same jokes every time I see him. I saw him 3 years ago doing the same jokes. That's that's the worst right there. 'Cause you're like, what? I had one lady one time, I was in Dallas, and I did the joke where I did on my special where I said, I saw Michael Irvin and it was a true story. I saw Michael Irvin in a video right after the Cowboys beat the Packers and Brett Favre to go to the Super Bowl to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that had to be 23 years ago. And in the interview, they were interviewing Troy Aikman, and Michael Irvin was right behind Troy Aikman. And Michael goes, he's got nothing but a towel on. I can't find it on YouTube, but Mike goes, tonight it's limos, hoes, and papados. I was like, God damn, that's how I want to party. And I've never seen that video anywhere. And when I saw it, and I did that on my special, when I was in Dallas a few years ago, a girl said, hey, we come to see you every time you're in Dallas, and you did that joke the last time. I said, what joke? No, first she said, you got to write some new jokes. I was doing a meet and greet afterwards, and I said, what do you mean? And she goes, I took immediate offense to it. And she goes, I said, what do you mean? I make sure I got new jokes every time I come. She goes, no. You did the Michael Irvin limos, hoes, and papados joke. And I went, that's a Dallas joke. Like, I only was telling that joke in Dallas. And I said, anything else? And she couldn't think of anything else. So this lady saw me for an hour. And the fact that I did one joke, which is a regional joke, can't do it in any other city. It's a Dallas joke, Dallas Cowboys, Michael Irvin. And in her mind, I bet she was telling people Gary Owen always does the same jokes. And I was just like, man. So out of an hour, I did, 58 new minutes. And I did 2 minutes that you saw the last time I was in Dallas. And that's what she took away from it. Not the 58 new minutes, just the 2 minutes of a joke that's very regional. And I did that joke on my special because, one, I realized Dallas Cowboys is the biggest out of any sports team. Lakers, Knicks, Celtics, Patriots. Dallas Cowboys is the biggest, most profitable sports franchise in the world. I don't know if in the world for soccer, but in the United States, it definitely is. So I figure everybody knows the Cowboys, and everybody remembers Aikman, Emmett, and Michael Irvin. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that joke in my special. And I was in San Antonio, where I knew a lot of those people. They're Cowboy fans. I don't know if you guys remember the Hard Knocks when the Cowboys had it. They were doing their training camp in San Antonio. Yeah. So, anyways, thanks everybody in Chicago for coming out. Now this weekend I'm in Montgomery, Alabama, at the Performing Arts Center, and then October 4th and 5th. 4th, I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the Crown Theater. And October 5th, I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Miller High Life Theater. October 18th, I'm in Petersburg, Virginia at the VSU Multipurpose Center. October 19th, I'm in Oklahoma City at the Cox Convention Center. October 25th, I'm in Augusta, Georgia at Bell Auditorium. And October 26th, I'm in Mobile, Alabama at the Mobile Civic Center. So this weekend, I'll be in Montgomery, Alabama at the Performing Arts Center. And Friday night, I'm going to see my high school play, Talawanda High School. They're playing a school called Little Miami, and it's their first league game. They're having a great season, and I don't know if I'll be able to make another game, but I'm happy I'm able to make this one. And 2 weeks ago, I did I had talked about my high school football team, Talawanda and Oxford. And when I was talking about the 2 running backs we have, Terrell Willis and the other kid. Hold on. I don't want to mispronounce his name, DeAndre. But I had said there's a black kid on Talawanda's team that was adopted by 2 gay white men. And I said I didn't know his whole backstory. Well, one of his dads reached out to me, and I'll just read what he said. He said, heard your podcast last week, granted this was 2 weeks ago, about football, namely the resurgence of Talawanda football and the special team they have going this year. I am DeAndre Botas Reveille's dad, one of them. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. If I'm not, I apologize. And I just want to say I was thrilled to see you take notice of the hard work those boys have put into making this a season for the ages. They're all really special kids, but let me tell you about DeAndre. We adopted him and his little sister Rose and baby brother DeMontez. I think DeMontez. D, and then it's apostrophe Montaz. DeMontez. A little over 8 years ago. Their other father, David, and I have been together for 15 years this month and adopted them through the foster care system. D is a special kid, sharp as a tack, smart, kind, and talented. He's got a 4.0 GPA, works part-time and helps around the house when we can convince him it's in his best interest to do so. His little sister is pretty darn good on the hardwood, volleyball, and basketball, and Taz is an aspiring singer, actor, football player. These kids are something special. As you can imagine, it's not easy being gay white guys raising 3 young black kids in Oxford. But we make it work, and the community is really great. I grew up nearby College Corner, which is a small town in Indiana, for those who don't know, and we just moved back to the area about 6 years ago. Anyway, wanted you to have some background about our family. You'll be hearing about DeAndre for years to come. He's the real deal. Thank you for all you do for Oxford. Admittedly, I didn't know much about you before I moved back here, but you won me over with your love for your hometown. Take care. And I had messaged him back, and I said, well, I'm looking forward to meeting him this Friday at the game. So that's a little backstory about one of the running backs on my small little high school that I went to in Oxford, Ohio. Now, what I want to get into, and the weird thing about my high school is so small town, is there's a page on Facebook, and it's about It's called Remembering the Angels of Talawanda. And when somebody passes away from my high school, people post about it. And I'm at an age now in my 40s where, people that I grew up with and went to high school with, I mean, some people start passing away unexpectedly. I mean, 40s is early, but still, I mean, it happens. And there was a kid that I went to high school with, and he passed away. I'm not sure how he passed away, but when you find out people from your grade passed away, I was like, whoa, it kind of hits you. And then you start looking them up on the internet. I think that's natural. And I want to ask you guys, is it rude? Because you always wonder when somebody young, really anybody under 50, and under 60 for that matter, when they pass away, you feel like it's rude to ask how. But I think it's a natural human reaction to wonder how somebody passed away. But it's hard to, some people go off on people on social media when you ask, like, well, how'd he pass? What's it matter? You know what I mean? Because you don't want to open up a wound if it was a tragic death. But anytime I see somebody pass away, I'm curious. And I think most people are. When you hear somebody just passed away, you're like, well, how did they die? And I don't know how this guy went to high school, passed away. I've looked it up. I've Googled everything, and I just don't know. But it's weird because you can't ask either. So it's just a weird thing. You're kind of left in limbo sometimes. Like when somebody 80, 90 dies, you're like, okay, I don't really have to ask. Whatever it was, whether it was cancer, it's basically old age. It's once you hit over 80. That's how you die. It's old age. But when people, in their 40s, 30s, even younger than that, when they pass away, it's natural to ask, how did it happen? Why? But man, people they get all bent out of shape when you ask. But it's still just, you realize when you start going to class reunions, like your 5-year, your 10-year, most people are still around. And then your 20-year, you might have a few people gone. And then you get to 25. That's the magic one right there. And then I think the 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, then you're like, you really start losing people. So it's just it's a sobering reality of your mortality is when people that you grew up with from high school, because I think you still think of people as what they were like in high school. And you still think, for some reason, when somebody passes away, you still think of them as 18 years old, 17 years old. You don't think, oh my God, they're in their 40s. It's just like when you see guys you grew up with, and there's a couple guys I know that I grew up with that went to prison, and you're just like, what happened? Like, what kind of life choices did you make? What went wrong? There was a guy I grew up with in a trailer park he got killed probably about 2 years ago. His wife shot him. And it was like, I guess reading up, there was a history of domestic violence in the household, and just shot him. I'm like, and then I went to his Facebook page, and started looking at him, and I was like, God, there were still resemblances of him from the trailer park, the kid I remember, but then you also see where life, was kind of, he definitely took a different path than I did by his appearance. And I was just like, man, what happened? That's what you're always wondering, like, what happened? So yeah. So another thing I want to talk about, I watched this documentary on Netflix. And, last week I talked about The D Train, which is a funny ass movie. God. And so I'm on Netflix this week, and I'm, browsing. One, I watched this movie called The Outsider with Trace Atkins and some other people. It was, it wasn't that great, I'll be honest with you. And I wanted to like it. It was a Western, and, I like a lot of times I like Westerns if they're well done. But this one, it just didn't do it for me, man. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was. And if you know who Trace Atkins is, he's a country singer, but he's got this deep voice. And I liked him in it. He played a good cowboy, but everyone else, I was just like, I don't know. Just wasn't that great. I wouldn't recommend The Outsider if you see it. But then I watched this Chelsea Handler documentary called Hey Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea. And it was basically her saying she now realizes what white privilege is, and she has white privilege. And she thinks more white people have to admit there is white privilege out there so we can, become better as a society. And I see it too. When I watched the documentary, I felt like it ended abruptly. I felt like there was too many loose ends. But she brought up some good points. There's a lot of things I didn't know about Chelsea when I watched it. I didn't know she ran away and moved in with a black guy at 16 and got pregnant twice. And I think she went back and she visited her old boyfriend from when she was a teenager, and he had been in prison for 14 years. And he was a drug dealer, but like she said, he was selling drugs and giving the money to his mom because that's just the environment he lived in. And then he started using heroin. He started using drugs. And his mom said she was using drugs. And when her son started using, she said, I had to stop because she goes, shit, I couldn't have, it sobered her up, her son using. She's like, I can't be doing drugs with my son. So in one retrospect, her son using drugs might have saved her life. And now that the son, he did 14 years in prison, he's out. It looked like he's doing all right, and as well as you can be after doing a stint in prison for 14 years. But the one thing I took when I watched it, and I recommend everybody watch it, it's only like an hour long. She went to USC and she went to this, I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was like a poetry open dialogue session with black students. There wasn't just black students there, but it's minority students at USC, and they're able to make their voices heard. And, the one guy was doing a poem about the struggles of being black in this country. Then Chelsea came up and she talked, and I don't know if the vibe really was that bad or tense, but the way they shot it, it looked like they wanted no part of her being there. And one girl stood up and she said, I don't know, this might get edited out, but she goes, I don't appreciate you being here because I feel like you're going to take what you hear and you're just going to basically steal it. In her mind, white people steal everything from black people. And, you don't know what her experiences are. And I was like, whoa, that was a little intense. And what they all said is, they can't stand it when white people act like there's no white privilege. And I mean, I see it a lot of times in family members of my own. When I see posts they make on Facebook, or I'm talking about on some of my white family members, whether it's cousins or whatever, they'll post something and it's weird. It's like, I know my cousins aren't racist, none of them, but they definitely, a lot of them don't see white privilege at all. Like Chelsea talked to these ladies from Orange County, and they said, no, I don't see white privilege. You just work hard, you make the right choices in life, and that's what it is. She goes, there's all kinds of privilege, and everyone has drawbacks. Some people aren't attractive, some people are heavy. And so Chelsea was like, well, how do you explain that I've been pulled over numerous times with drugs in the car and I never got arrested, but my boyfriend did? And it was eye-opening. I've always been aware of white privilege, and I had a cop. I'll give you an example. When I was in the military and I was a cop, we used to, we're at the gate, we guard the gate, but the highway in front of the gate, that was San Diego PD or Coronado PD would patrol it. So a lot of times the patrol cars, it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, they'll come by and they'll just stop and we'll get a couple. I had a coffee machine right there at the gate, so I'd make a cup of coffee and give it to them, and we start just BSing. And one cop pulled up one time, and I said, "Hey, you want some coffee?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll take a cup of coffee." And I go in and give him a cup of coffee, bring it out to his car, and he's like, "Man, that's very white of you," or something to that extent. And I remember thinking, "What did he just say?" And it was almost like he was looking at me like white guys got to stick together. And I go, oh, and just the look he had, I go, oh, he's one of them cops. He's one of them cops. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. It's weird. I'm 21 years old. It kind of shocked me, and you're not trying to start an argument, but I was just like, you're one of those cops. Okay. Now I know what it is. I'm trying to think if I've ever been, has white privilege ever benefited me as far as not getting arrested? I've been pulled over numerous times, but I've always been polite to the cops. Whether you're white or black, the worst is when you get pulled over and you might have been going that fast. Maybe you're going 10 miles over the speed limit, and you give the cop a reason and they still give you the ticket, and you're just like, well, fuck, I should have been rude. I think one time a couple of tickets I've gotten. One time I had a show in Indianapolis. We were living in Cincinnati, and I'm driving back, and it's about 3, 4 in the morning. Cop pulls me over. I'm doing like 45 and 35. It's nothing crazy. And he says, why were you speeding? And I know he thought I was drinking. It was like a Saturday night. And I was like, oh, I said, well, my son, I said, man, I was in Indy. I'm driving back. I'm tired. I was just trying to get home. My son's got a basketball game in the morning. So I was getting back because we got to be up at 8 in the morning. He goes, oh, okay. And he takes my license information. I'm thinking, okay, he's going to let me off with a warning. With that excuse, and I wasn't lying. That was the truth. He still gave me a ticket. I go, goddamn, motherfucker. Why are you asking all these questions? You're still going to give me a ticket? Just give me the ticket. I think when cops ask you, where are you going and what are you doing? I'm like this. Okay, I'm telling you, what would you do? And they still give you the ticket. And maybe let me see if I benefited from being white in certain things. I don't know. But I know it exists. I definitely know it exists. Watch the Chelsea Handler. It's eye-opening because she shows her house, and she says she wouldn't have been as far in entertainment if she was a black girl doing some of the stuff she did. And I basically came up on the black comedy circuit. I didn't do the mainstream rooms. One, I couldn't get up. in the mainstream rooms. I always went up with the I could get up at all the black rooms. So I always like, screw it. I'll just do the black comedy clubs. I just want to get on stage. I didn't care who was in the audience, especially when you first got to LA. You just want stage time every night. And then, of course, when I'm doing all the black comedy clubs and black rooms, you get to know all the black comics, and that they become your friends. And I didn't know a lot of the mainstream white comics. And I still don't, honestly. I don't know a ton of them. I hear my name come up on certain people's podcasts. Like next week, I'm doing Fighter and the Kid. And, I've never met Brendan Schaub in real life. And Brian Callen, we met on the set of Ride Along. He doesn't remember it, obviously. But I just don't see him. It's weird as a stand-up, too, because I don't live in L.A., but the L.A. comics, it's like a clique. And I get it. You see these guys every night. And I'm not in that loop. And when you go to comedy clubs, you'll see comics coming and going on the flyers and the billboards, but you never really get to meet them. So, yes, that's why I don't know a lot of the quote-unquote white comics out there. I see them, I meet them every now and then, but I don't know them, But I came up doing all the black rooms. That's why I know all the black comics. But on top of Chelsea's documentary, it reminded me of, she was showing some of the old jokes she told. And then recently, with my comedy special coming out, and Dave Chappelle's special came out, and then Bill Burr's special came out, we're in a lot of the interviews I did leading up to my special, they were talking about cancel culture. We're in an age of cancel culture where people want to cancel everybody for everything they say. And I think we're getting out of that phase as far as stand-up. And I've always said, and I said it on interviews and I post on Instagram, it's very, very, very hard to cancel comedians over stuff they say on stage as a joke. Now, if you post something on Instagram, Facebook, social media, when people read stuff, the delivery is different. But when you're on stage telling jokes, I think people, they go there for that outlet. They want to release things. They want to release from society. They want to hear those uncomfortable, taboo subjects that you're not supposed to talk about. God damn. I mean, if you go look at the Kings of Comedy. Go look at Bernie Mac's set, where he's basically make fun of gays, special needs, everything. Calls him a sissy. I watched it recently. I watched like a clip, and I was like, of Bernie, and I was like, whoa. He would never get a TV deal now off that set. He got a TV deal off that set. And then recently, last week, SNL fired this guy, Shane Gillis, over racist comments 4 days after hiring him. And he did it. He did a podcast, though. And so that's not jokes he said on stage. It was a podcast. And like I said, there's no like magic wand to say everything you say on stage goes. Because somebody brought up Michael Richards to me. And I go, yeah, but when Michael Richards got in trouble for him being on stage, he was no longer telling jokes. He was literally, he just went off and was saying the N-word to somebody in the audience. And so that was a little different. And like I said, there's always exceptions to every rule. There's not a magic wand like that. Like, boom, comedians can never get in trouble with shit they say on stage. But I was just thinking about every time they try to cancel somebody, it doesn't really affect them when it comes to stand-up. Because I remember Tracy Morgan doing a gay joke, and everybody got on him when he was in Nashville years ago. Didn't really affect his career. Hannibal Buress talked about Bill Cosby and the date rape drug. Didn't really affect his career. Chappelle and Bill Burr went in on everything. Well, they addressed cancel culture, and that's what it was. They kind of threw it in their face. That's why I always say Chappelle's the freest comic out there, because he doesn't have TV and movie and endorsement deals. So he can kind of say whatever he wants. And as long as he keeps selling tickets, puts asses in the seats, you know, Netflix is still going to give him a ton of money to release his specials because they know there's a huge audience out there for it. And even Bill Burr. And, you know, I don't go in too much. There's been times I've had people come at me. But what I realize about the cancel culture is, the people that get mad about something they see on YouTube or on a special, they were never going to pay to see me anyways. You never were going to pay to come see my show anyways. So you don't really matter to me. I'll be honest with you, because you're not really a fan of mine. You're just mad. And I don't get it. Like, if you don't like a joke, just turn it off. If I don't like somebody, I'm not going to go hang out with them. I don't want to hang out with you if I don't like you. So if you don't like my joke, don't watch it. It's pretty simple. But now everyone wants to be mad, and they want to make their name for canceling somebody. That's the thing. It's almost like people get off on it. Yeah, I got him in trouble. I canceled him. And what kills me about that is, you got a comedian that can tell one joke that you don't like, and your whole goal is to ruin his livelihood or her livelihood over a joke. So you got a man or woman that might have a family, kids, doing everything right in life, paying their taxes and taking care of their family, and a good citizen, nice to people. And they get on stage and they tell a joke. And now you want them to what? Just not tell jokes anymore, find a different line of work. So they've worked their ass off their whole life, and you've never come to see them once in person live. And you see something on YouTube or Showtime or Netflix, and now you want to get offended and you want to cancel them. I'm like this. That's the shit that gets me. Just turn it off, man. Listen, the best stand-up is the uncomfortable stand-up, as long as it's not coming from a malicious place. And most stand-ups aren't. We're just making observations about things that we all talk about, like in the backyard, having beers with our boys, or people over for wine, and you're amongst friends and you're talking and subjects come up, and not subjects you would say at work, but subjects you would talk about after work. And that's what comedy shows are. You're not normal business hours. So now if you do a corporate gig, that's different. If you get hired by, like I got hired by Orchid. I had to do a show at 8 a.m. one time, corporate gig. And as soon as I got there, I said, what can I not say? I have it put in the contract. So we just know what it is. Yeah, that's different. But if you're at a comedy club or a theater and people pay to see you perform, it's like anything goes. And I think we're getting at a point where people are getting sick of the cancel culture, the PC culture. And now you see a lot of fans wanting to hear that shit. They want to hear you talk about people. The only thing I think is completely off limits is still white guys saying the N-word. I still think that is a hot, but white guys have done it. I've seen Louis C.K. He said it numerous times. I don't even know what Carlos Mencia is. I think he's from Honduras. I don't know, but I've heard him say the N-word. Ralphie May, he used to say it. I could never say it on stage, but I have a huge black fan base. And I always said the N-word to me, it's not worth it. The risk is not, I don't care if I have the greatest joke in the history of jokes, but the punchline has the N-word in it. I'd be like, no, ain't worth it. Because at that point, one, you're risking alienating a lot of your fan base. And then I can't even imagine what would it feel like to be on stage and have a bunch of people paying to see you, and then you say something and half the crowd just starts booing or turns left on you. And that's what I think would happen if I ever said the N-word on stage. I was like, I've had comics, and fans like, man, you could probably get away with it. I'm like, no, I can't. Fuck that. Ain't worth it. Ain't worth it at all. Not going there. Yeah, I think we're getting out of there's, like I said, I've talked about Andrew Schultz in the past. He really pushes the envelope when he's on stage. And he said in an interview, he said like, yeah, people are coming to see him do that type of shit. They want to see it. So like I said, I don't think stand-ups are really affected by the cancel culture, PC culture. And when you go see stand-ups live, we're still talking about whatever we want to talk about. Anything goes in a comedy club, with the exception of a white guy saying the N-word. That would be the one thing. So I'm not going to say anything goes. 99% of shit goes. I will say that. So listen, yeah, enough about that cancel culture and people mad about stuff. It's just, you be thinking about it like, why is everybody so mad lately? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Because there was an interview and I said, and I don't know if I said it past on my podcast, when my brother passed away of a heroin overdose, like a month later, SNL did a sketch where they talked about heroin. And I had so many people messaging me like, aren't you mad about that? Shouldn't be mad your brother died and SNL's making fun? I go, no, I'm not mad, because it's not like Saturday Night Live writers were in a room saying Gary Owen's brother just died of a heroin overdose. Let's do a heroin sketch. No, they were really just showing how people with heroin act. They were taking a dark subject and making light of it. And I thought about it, I go, my brother would laugh at that. So I wasn't mad about it. I was like, and he did act that way. So I wasn't mad at SNL. I was like, I'm not going to get mad at that. That's what they're supposed to do. Take something dark and make light of it. Now, the guy that got fired from SNL, like I said, he was doing a podcast. He wasn't on stage telling jokes. And that's a different forum. When you're doing an interview or you're talking one-on-one with somebody, that's different. That you're not, it's just a different dynamic completely. I can't explain it, but it's definitely not stand-up. It's not a thought-out joke. You just basically have a conversation with somebody. So if you say something crazy, that could get you in trouble. Just like a tweet or Facebook, if you type something nuts, it could get you in trouble. Like I said, I still don't agree with it, but it is what it is. And one thing I haven't talked about, completely changing subjects again. I did a movie for a month. I was in Winnipeg, Canada, and it kind of all ties together. So I'm in Winnipeg for basically the month of August. I was there, and I did this movie called Welcome to Sudden Death. And thank you to Michael Jai White for going to bat for me, because he really, more than anybody else, got me the part in that movie. And the director, Dallas Jackson, those two went to Universal and really fought to get me on that movie. And it was funny because when the movie will be out in June on Netflix, And the movie was originally just a martial arts action movie. It was a hybrid sequel to Sudden Death, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie back in the mid-90s that came out. Only difference is he was saving the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team. We're saving the Phoenix NBA team in this movie. But it's terrorists. They bomb. They got bombs planted at a basketball arena in the middle of the game. And then what it comes down to is me and Michael Jai White. He's a security guard that we don't know is a badass, like some Army Ranger from the past. And I'm a janitor that's been there 20 years. And they end up basically all these terrorists to take over the whole arena. They kill all the security guards except Mike. And then I'm kind of oblivious to everything going on. And it ends up coming down to me and Mike saving the arena. And I'm not going to tell you if we do or not. You just got to wait till June to see the movie. But Mike and the director, Dallas Jackson, they really went to bat for me because Universal was like, Gary Owen, I'm not sure. And they were throwing out other names. And Michael and Dallas was like, nope. We want Gary Owen. And I say it was an action comedy movie because then when the press release came out, it got described as a buddy comedy. And I was like, I remember one guy even goes, I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I go, wonder why. Maybe because I'm in it? Hold on. Oh, Jesus Christ. So it's called Welcome to Sudden Death. It'll be out in June on Netflix. But one thing I will say was crazy about Winnipeg is two things. I started drinking oat milk lattes up there. There was a coffee place called Fools and Horses. Man, best oat milk latte I ever had up there. And then one day we were on set. I got picked up from the hotel. We were driving to this location. And all of a sudden, when they picked me up, it was so early. It was like 5 a.m. We went through this ghetto. And nobody was really out. And I was like, man, this is kind of a shitty neighborhood. We're shooting it here? Well, we drove through the ghetto, and then we went and shot on the other side of town. But once I was off work, like 5 or 6 at night, the driver was driving me back. So we're going through this bad part of town in Winnipeg, and it was all Indians. I don't know if they're called Native Americans or Native Canadians. I'm not sure, but Indians. And their ghetto looked just like a ghetto in the United States, but instead of black people, it was Indians. They had, the liquor stores. There was homeless. There was a Boys and Girls Club. There was a park where people were just hanging out. There were women with strollers, clearly single moms, just kind of young moms, just rolling their kids around. And I was like, holy shit. There was a Burger King. There was a Church's Chicken. Everything you would see in the ghetto United States, it was there, but it was all Indians. There was no black people. And it was the oddest thing. I felt like I was in an alternative universe. And I was asking the guy, I go, is this normal? He goes, yeah. They're, poverty and all the other stuff. It wasn't black people in Winnipeg. It was Indian people. And I was just like, whoa, talk about mind blown. One thing I did see, though, there was like, all of a sudden there was a group of like 8 people outside, like it wasn't a 7-Eleven, but it was like a 7-Eleven. And they all had these reflective vests on. And they were meeting and they were getting ready to go walk around. And I saw them start to separate. And I go, what are they doing? He goes, well, that's like neighborhood watch. He goes, that community, I guess some people in that community just took it upon themselves. So they weren't affiliated with law enforcement or anything else. It was just people, older people. When I say older, I mean like just adults, not like old. We're just like, look, we're going to patrol the neighborhood just to have a presence. So not as many crimes are committed. And I don't think the crime was as bad as the United States because I don't think Canada has a huge crime rate like we do in the United States. But it still was just odd to see it. I was like, man. It was like a movie. I don't know if you guys remember the movie. What was that movie with John Travolta? And I think was it Samuel L. Jackson? I'm going to look it up. But it was basically what if roles were reversed? What if white people were slaves and got freedom? Black people were running the country and were in power. And so you got the white people struggling with jobs and not as good education, and the school system wasn't as good. I'm going to look that up. What was that movie called? But I had such high hopes for that movie. Then when I saw it, I was like, it wasn't as good as I thought. John Travolta. Let me see what that movie is called. I think it was Samuel L. Jackson. I always go to IMDb when I'm looking people up, but goddamn, John Travolta's done so many freaking movies. You gotta go all the way down. Not Basic, not Better, not General's Daughter. Was it a civil action? No. Wait a minute. I think it was Mad City. Nope, not Mad City. God damn, John Travolta's done a lot of movies. Let's go back. Okay, so made his comeback with Pulp Fiction. Was it White Man's Burden? 95? Yeah. Wait a minute. Gosh. White Man's Burden. Hold on. Yeah. Harry Belafonte and John Travolta. An alternative America where African Americans and white Americans have reversed cultural roles. A white factory worker kidnaps a black factory worker owner for dismissing him over perceived disdain. So, it's called White Man's Burden. But it was basically, what if the roles were reversed in this country? And I felt like it could have been better. When I saw it, it could have been better. But that's how I felt. I felt like I was in that movie a little bit when I was in Winnipeg. And I saw how all the natives, I don't even know what to call, I don't know what to call them. Not Native Americans, not, I want to say Indians, I guess natives. They were the poverty ones. Clearly there were some drug addicts walking around. I mean, you could spot them a mile away. It was exactly the same as you see in the ghettos in the United States. But the black people in Winnipeg were doing fine. There wasn't a lot of black people, but the ones there were doing okay. I was like, whoa. Talk about, sometimes things just blow your mind. You're like, wow, I really had no idea this was going on. But I will say that movie, I'm excited about it coming out because it's my first co-lead in the movie. It's me and Michael Jai. We're buddies, almost like a Rush Hour. But I'm playing the Chris Tucker type, and he's the badass, but he's more Jackie Chan. But but it was awesome to shoot up there, man. We took over a basketball arena for the week, and I got hurt so much. God damn. My lower back is still sore, and it's been a month. I got to get an MRI. I don't know. It was so bad because Michael fighting, every other day he's fighting all these fight scenes. And he's 52 years old. He's built like he's 30. He's ripped up. He's doing these karate moves. So one day me and Mike were running all day. All these scenes we're running from the bad guys. We're getting shot at and we're running. And by the end of the day, right before we're running on the last hallway, I tweaked my hamstring. I'm like, I didn't want to say anything. So I'm like, God damn it. I don't look like a pussy. Mike's in here fighting all these people, and all I got to do is run one day. And I tweaked my hamstring. And I finally told the director, because we were going to do a couple more takes, I go, hey, man, I think I tweaked my hamstring. I can't really run like that. And he goes, are you serious? I go, dead serious. And I thought Mike might say something, but to Mike's credit, he was like, dude, I did that our first week. He goes, you got to ice that immediately. So we did 2 more takes, and they got me in the slowest looking jog ever. And then we actually incorporated the hamstring pull into the movie. So when you see it, I'm not gonna tell you. You'll when you see the movie in June, you'll catch it quick. But they basically had to incorporate me pulling my hamstring into the movie because I did really pull it, and I had to run a couple more days after that. I had some running scenes. So we had to incorporate me running with my hamstring pull in the movie. They were just like, "Fuck it, just put it in the movie." So yeah, but god dang, seeing those karate scenes up close like that, I was like, whoa. It's one thing to have see stunt guys do it, but Michael really is the real deal. For real, he's about that life, that karate life. And then some of my favorite times on set is in between takes. And that's what I like most about shoot movies is you really get to know people in this business. Things I don't like about shoot movies is sometimes you get really close to somebody on set and then you never really talk to them again. You'll do a movie and you'll spend literally 16 hours a day with certain people. And then when the movie's done, I mean, you stay in touch a little bit, but people go on with their lives. This whole entertainment business, especially actors, it's a hustle, man. And you're hustling for your next gig. And sometimes you lose touch with people. God dang, when I did Held Up with Jamie Foxx, I mean, that's summer 98. We just hung tough. And then we're in the middle of Canada, in the middle of nowhere shooting that movie. And, I hung out with Jamie on our off days the whole time. And, we've kind of drifted apart over the years, and we're still cool when we see each other, but that is what it is in this business. It happens. That's the only thing I don't like about the business. But what I love about shooting movies is you get to know people. And goddamn, Mike's backstory, that's a book in itself. I'm not at liberty to share because he opened up some stuff to me in the makeup trailer and just sitting around in between takes. But God, dude's lived a hell of a life, man. A hell of a life. He is about that karate life, that not even karate, martial arts life. Just mind-blowing stuff that he's been through that you wouldn't even believe unless he told you. And I was just like, it's just cool. Like, I remember Chaz Palminteri sharing stories about how he got a Bronx Tale made when we were shooting Little Man. Just all of us guys in Think Like a Man. I mean, we really became tight, like brothers in that movie afterwards. We're still all in touch and help each other out. Hell, my daughter is going to go visit North Carolina A&T in 2 weeks. And Terrence J and his assistant Fred, they made some phone calls to get her a good tour of the university. And I don't want anybody to watch this and be like, oh, they made phone calls to get her in. No, her grades are going to get her in. Her ACT or SAT score is going to get her in. They're just making sure that we are getting a tour with the right people so she can get a full idea what the university is and what her major is. And she's going to the right departments to see, just the right people. Nepotism isn't dead. I mean, call in favor sometimes. And Terrence didn't have to do that. Fred didn't have to do that. But, that's my daughter. They know her, they know me, and they're just looking out. So make sure, and I feel comfortable with her going to a school like that because I know she'll really be looked out for at a university like that because we know so many people in that area and alumni. Now, I don't know where she's going to go yet, but A&T, I've always liked that campus, and every time I've gone to Greensboro, I like that city in North Carolina. So we'll see. But she's going to visit in a couple of weeks. But, that all stems from shooting Think Like a Man with Terrence. All right, well, this is a great episode of Get Some. Again, this weekend, I'm in Montgomery, Alabama at the Performing Arts Center. Let me just make sure I hate when I say the wrong venue. I know I said it earlier, but yes, the Montgomery PAC. I'm assuming it stands for Performing Arts Center in Montgomery, Alabama. I'll be there Saturday, September 28th. Let me see who else on the show with me. It's me and Lavelle Crawford and Tony Rock. Yeah, so that's going to be a bomb show. It's going to be a bomb show this Saturday. Yeah, tickets are moving good too. They're moving really well, so you might want to get them ASAP. All right, y'all, this is Gary Owen with the Get Some Podcast.
If you want to listen to my podcast, just go to iTunes, search Gary Owen, #GetSome.